it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, we're going to learn how to crochet this gorgeous Notes in the Garden shawl. This is a video tutorial I was doing in collaboration with Annie's. They're a large publishing house if you've never heard of them, and they offer these really awesome kits. They're called the Annie's Caring Crochet Kit Club, and we're going to talk about what's in the kit in a little bit, but this is what the shawl looks like, and we're going to learn how to crochet it together. This is part of their kit. It comes with some yarn, the pattern, and some other things, and I'm going to go through and show you how to crochet it from start to finish. Now, if you follow the link below, there is a link if you want to purchase the pattern from Annie's. These are offered from Annie's, or the kit itself, and it comes with some details on where to send your shawl if you wanted to send it along for a charity project. And we're going to learn how to go through this beautiful shawl every stitch of the way. And again, thank you to Annie's for sending me this kit so that I can share it with all of you and show you how to make the shawl. Also, the designer, Lee Sartori of Coco Crochet Lee, you may have heard of her, designed this beautiful shawl. So this was done with permission from the designer and in collaboration with Annie's. So let's get started and go through the kit first and then jump right into the shawl. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the yarn out. The yarn is very beautiful. Kind of reminds me of like mermaid colors. So you get 3 balls of yarn for this particular kit. Now they have other kits. I'll put the link down below so you can see what else they have. And inside this is a piece of cardboard just to keep everything nice and neat. You can see the finished shawl here. It's the Notes in the Garden shawl. And what they do is, let me just open it up here. They have a pattern, and there's another picture of the finished shawl. It's very beautiful. And what you do is you make the project for charity, and then there's also an enclosed donation card with an address, and it goes to a charity. So for this particular project, the charity is called Handmade Especially for You, and you write who made it, where you are, and a message, and you can just donate it. So I think it's really neat. I get a lot of questions where people don't know where to donate. They want to make things for charity and make donation items, but they don't know where to make them for. So this takes all of that guesswork out of it for you. So you get this gorgeous pattern. You get all the yarn that you need for the pattern, and then you even get a note card with information of where to send it. So I just love this concept. It's very, very cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this shawl together. We're going to go through it, and and on the back too, it has a little blurb about what the organization does and how they're changing people's lives, and it's very neat concept, and the website is there too. So the pattern has what's included in the kit, the sizing, of course the instructions, some crochet abbreviations, all the rows that we'll be going through. So we're going to go through and make this shawl together. So to make this shawl, you have everything you'll need here, but you'll need your hook. So the recommended hook for this project is a 5mm H crochet hook, which I have here, and a tapestry needle, and I also grabbed a pair of scissors to snip our yarn later too. So very minimal supplies. Probably if you're a crocheter, you probably have these items already. And let's just look at the yarn really quick. It's a number 2 fine. Each ball of this is 328 yards. It has this lovely tonal gradient, as you can see. And it's all with like the Annie's branding. So it's really a pretty kit, and it's very organized and well done too. So let's move some of this out of the way, and we are going to pop open this pattern and learn how to make this shawl together. The finished measurements are 40 inches long, 56 inches wide before blocking, and 46 inches long and 64 inches wide after blocking. Now for gauge, 4-inch square equals 16 double crochets and 8 rows. So it does say take time to check gauge as you work. Some pattern notes: weave in the loose ends as the work progresses. Beginning chain does not count as a stitch. Okay, so now we're ready to go. So to begin, we're going to put a slip knot on our hook. So wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up the loop, and tighten. Then what we're going to do is chain 4. So to make a chain, wrap the yarn around the hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in the 4th chain from the hook, so that first loop you made, 1, 2, 3, 4, what we're going to do is work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, okay? So to make a double crochet, wrap the yarn around the hook, insert it into that chain farthest from the hook, that 4th chain, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on the hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. So that was 1 double crochet, but we need 3. So that was 1. Then we're going to work 2 and then 3. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to work 3 more double crochets, all in that same chain to get us started. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so row 1 is complete. For row 2, what we're going to do is chain 2, turn our work, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of these 3 double crochets we worked from the previous row. So right down here at the bottom, we're going to work a double crochet into that first stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and a double crochet into the next stitch, just like that. Okay, now we're going to work into this chain 2 space that we created in the row before. So what we need to do is chain 1 first, and then in that chain 2 space we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then chain 2. This will create our triangle point, 1, 2, and then 3 more double crochets into that same space. So 1, 2, and 3. As a side note, our yarn is starting to turn a little bit blue, so that tonal is already, that beautiful tonal look is already sort of displaying itself. Okay, so we did our corner. This will be our triangle corner as we make our little tiny triangle here. Now we're going to chain 1 once again, and then we're going to work a stitch, a double crochet stitch into each one of these stitches down the side. So work a double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and a double crochet into that last stitch there. Just like that. Okay? Now it will be helpful to have this tail down here pointing towards you as you work. That will kind of mark the bottom, which will eventually be the top of your shawl. But it'll kind of keep you straight until your triangle is bigger. For row 3, we're going to turn our work and chain 2. 1, 2, and then what we're going to do is work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So right at the base of that chain 2, you'll see a stitch, work in that very first stitch. So work a double crochet in the first stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, and a double crochet into that 3rd stitch, just like that. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, okay? So double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into that 3rd stitch, and chain 1. All right, we're at the corner, the little peak of our triangle here. So into that chain 2 space, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1 double crochet. I'm going to redo that stitch. That one looked a little loose. 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and then we're going to chain 2, and then in that same space we're going to work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. Now we're going to come down the side of our triangle once again. So we need to chain 1 and then work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Whoops, let's redo that one. Double crochet into that first stitch you come to, double crochet into that next stitch, and double crochet into that last stitch. Just like that. Okay, so row 3 is complete. For row 4, we're going to turn our work and then chain 2, 1, 2, and then once again we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So double crochet in that first stitch you see, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, then we're going to chain 1, then we're going to double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, then chain 1, and then repeat that one more time. So work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to work that corner the same way we did before. Work another chain 1, and then we're going to work that corner the way we did before. So work 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3, chain 2 to create that point, and 3 more double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Whoops, let's redo that one. Let's back up a little. If you ever have a stitch that you're not crazy about, just redo it. So that's the second double crochet and the third one. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and then work a double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. You can sort of isolate them if you want to, because that chain 1 creates a little space. You can kind of see the grouping here. So work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, then chain 1, then work a double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then work a double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches for that last grouping. So 1, 2, and 3, just like that. For row 5, we're going to turn our work and chain 3 this time. 1, 2, 3. And then what we're going to do is work a treble crochet into the next double crochet. So to make a treble crochet, we're going to wrap yarn around hook 2 times this time. Insert the hook into that next double crochet and bring up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on the hook, yarn around hook, bring through the first 2 loops, yarn around hook, bring through the next 2 loops, yarn around hook, bring it through those last 2 loops, okay? Then what we're going to do is chain 1, and then we're going to skip the next stitch, and then in the chain space, so we'll have a chain space next, we're going to work another treble crochet into that space, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and the stitch after that, work a treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then we have a chain 1 space there, so we're going to work a treble crochet into that, chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and in that chain 1 space, work a treble crochet, and then chain 1. skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. So far you should have a total of 7 treble crochets up the side here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and then work a treble crochet in that next stitch. There's one more stitch before we get to that corner space, that point. So work a treble crochet in that last stitch there, just like that, and then chain 1. And now we're at that corner space, that chain 2 space that makes the peak of our triangle. So in that space, we're going to work a treble crochet, just like that, then a chain 1, then a treble crochet, then a chain 2, 1, 2, sliding things over if you need to into that corner space. Then we're going to work a treble crochet, then a chain 1, and then a treble crochet, all in that same space. So it looks like a little fan of treble crochets. Then what we're going to do is come down the side. So we want to chain 1, and then we're going to work a treble crochet into the next double crochet here that you see. So right there in that next double crochet, and then a chain 1, and then we're going to skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. We're just doing the same thing down the other side, okay? So chain 1, and then we have a chain 1 space. So we're going to skip that space, and in the stitch after that, work your treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next space, and the space after that, work a treble crochet, chain 1. I'm just going to get a little bit more yarn here. All right, and then we're going to skip, that's a space now, so we're going to skip that space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet once again, chain 1. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet, chain 1. Now we have a space, so skip that next space and work a treble crochet into the next stitch and chain 1. And then what we're going to do, we're coming up to the end here, skip the next stitch, and in that last stitch work a treble crochet to finish off the row. So that is going to give us a little bit of almost like a open meshy look for this row, and it makes our piece look very, very interesting. So I'm just gonna, whenever I do triangles like this, triangle shawls, I like to kind of shape it up and get those corners nice and sharp as I go along. Okay, so row 5 is complete. For row 6, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and then as we work across, we have a lot of spaces in stitches here. We're going to work a double crochet in each stitch and each one of these chain 1 spaces as well, okay, until we get to this top point. So what we're going to do is work a double crochet in each stitch and space. So work a double crochet in that first stitch, a double crochet in the next space, the chain 1 space, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next space. We're just kind of alternating here what we're working our double crochets into. So double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next space, double crochet in that next stitch, and when you do that, make sure you pick up both of the loops of that stitch or it'll pull. Double crochet in the next space, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next space, double crochet into the next space, double crochet into the next stitch, We're just doing this all the way across until we get to this triangle point, okay? So we're working a double crochet into the next stitch. My yarn's kind of following me around here. And then we're at a space, so double crochet into the next space. Double crochet into the next stitch. Double crochet into the next space. Double crochet into the next stitch. We're just doing this till we get to this chain 2 space at the point here, okay? So we're almost there. Double crochet into the next space. Double crochet into that last stitch before you get to that chain 2 space. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work our corner of our triangle, our little triangle point. So in there, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then in that same chain 2 space we're going to work 3 more double crochet, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet. And we can kind of straighten this out when we're done this row. Sometimes it'll get a little bunchy in your hands. And then before we continue down the next side, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do the same thing we did on this side. So work a double crochet in each stitch and space all the way down the next side. So I just did a double crochet in that first stitch, double crochet in the next space, double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet into the next space, all the way down the other side of our triangle. We're just doing the same thing we just did on that other side. Okay, so just work double crochet in each stitch and space all the way down. And as a side note, this jewel tone yarn, we're starting to get some teal. We've departed from the blue, so it's fun to, with these tonal yarns, to kind of see how the colors change and progress, and it really displays the stitches off in a beautiful way. Okay, just working in each stitch and space all the way down. And here we are towards the end here, and we're just working last stitches. All right, here we are at the end, so there's one more space. We'll work our double crochet into that space as well. Okay, so here's row 6. We can kind of sharpen up that point and just get everything straightened out. It looks just lovely. So let's move on to row 7. Row 7, what we're going to do is chain 2, turn our work, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. So this first double crochet you see, work a double crochet in each of these next 3. 1, whoops, let's try that again, 2, and 3. So 3 double crochets in each of these next 3 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip the next stitch, and then in the stitch after that we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So double crochet in the next one, double crochet in the next one, and double crochet into the next one. Okay, so we just created just a little decorative hole there. Okay, then what we're going to do is just repeat this sequence all the way across here till we get to our triangle point once again. Okay, so chain 1, skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, next stitch, double crochet, next stitch, double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Now we're at a spot where we have a space here, so we are going to also work in the space as we come to it as well, okay? So according to our sequence, we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then our next thing that we're at is a space. So work a double crochet into that space and each of the next 2 stitches. So 1, and that was 2, and then 3. And now we're at that corner point, that chain 2 space, so we're going to chain 1, and then in that chain 2 space we're going to do the same thing we did in the previous row. We're going to chain 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, and then 3 double crochet in that same space. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then to continue down the side of our triangle on the other side, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to chain 1, and then work, skip the next stitch, excuse me, right there, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and the stitch after that, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and the stitch after that, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, get a little bit more yarn here, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and we have 3 double crochets left, so work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so row 7 is complete. You can kind of straighten things out a little bit here, and let's move on to row 8. So for row 8, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit because our lovely triangle is growing. So let's get a little bit more yarn for row 8. Okay, so what we're going to do is chain 2, 1, 2, and turn our work. Then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. So work a double crochet in that first stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and a double crochet into the next stitch. Then we're going to chain 1 and skip over this. Now in the written pattern it says skip 1 double crochet or chain space, so it's whatever happens to be there. In this case it's a space. So we did a chain 1, we're going to skip over that space and then work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, whoops, 2, that was 2, and then 3. Okay, so at this point we're at another space and we're going to work a popcorn stitch. Now if you've never worked a popcorn stitch, I'm going to walk you through it, every stitch, okay? Now let's zoom in just a little bit to see that in action, okay? So basically a popcorn stitch is we're going to work 5 double crochets into this space to begin, okay? So all in that same space here, this chain 1 space, we'll work 5 double crochets to start. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So once you have your 5 double crochets, and try to keep them separate from the other stitches back here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets. I'm trying to get them a little bit separated. So these were the stitches we worked before. So here are our 5. They're in a little bundle here. So what we're going to do is we're going to carefully take our hook out and leave that loop there. Don't let it pull out. And we're going to go back into the first stitch that we worked, that first double crochet. So insert your hook into that first stitch worked, and then we're going to grab this loop with our hook and we're going to pull it through that stitch. Okay, so you'll have a loop here, and then we're going to chain 1 to close up the stitch. Okay, and that is how you work a popcorn. It's a nice little textural element that we're going to add to our shawl. Okay, so then what we want to do is work a double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so next we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip over that space and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochet stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now in this next space, we're ready to work our popcorn again. So remember, we're going to work in that space. We're going to work 5 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we want to sort of like isolate these stitches that we just did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just make sure it's 5 of them. Pull your loop out a little bit. Insert it into that first stitch worked. Grab that loop. Just go nice and slow. And then bring it through the loop that's already on your hook. And then chain 1. And that's our little textural popcorn stitch. And then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Whoops, let's redo that one again. Let me just get some more yarn off our yarn ball here. And then we're going to chain 1. And then we're going to skip over this space here and then work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And then in this space here, right before you get to our point of our triangle, we're going to work another popcorn in this space here, okay? So 5 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull your loop out. Maybe not that big, but pull a loop out. You can always tighten it in a second. And then make sure it's 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert your hook in that first stitch you worked of that group. Grab your loop, and at this point you can tighten it down if you need to. And then pull that loop through the loop that's already on your hook and chain 1. So just to check your work, at this point you should have 3 popcorns down the one side. 1, 2, 3. We can easily see them. And now we're heading towards the point here. We have 3 double crochets. So in each of these 3 double crochets, go ahead and work a double crochet in each one of those. So 1, 2, whoops, 2, and 3. All right, now we're at our point. So in this chain 2 space, our triangle top point here, we're going to work 3 double crochet right in that space. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to chain 2, and in that same space, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to work down the next side of our triangle, and we're going to be mimicking what we did here, okay? So you need to turn your work a little. Go ahead and do that. Now in this grouping here, these 3 double crochets that you come to first, work a double crochet in each one of those. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to work in this chain 1 space here. We're going to work a popcorn in that space. So remember, work 5 double crochet, 1, 2, 3 double crochet, 4 double crochet, and 5 double crochet. So leave your loop out a little bit and count backward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert your hook into that first one worked. Reach back here, grab that loop, tighten it down if you need to, and then bring that loop through that stitch, that first stitch, and chain 1. Now work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then here we're going to chain 1, skip over this space, and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to get a little bit more yarn here. And now we're at a space and we're going to work our popcorn. If you need to reference back, you can see it's sort of a mirror image of itself. So we have our 2 popcorns here, and then we're getting ready to put one here, okay? So once again, work 5 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and and 5. Now pull out a little loop and count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I always like to double check myself here. And then we're going to insert it into that first stitch worked. Go back into that loop. Bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Now we're at another group of these 3 double crochets. So work a double crochet in each of those next 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip over that space, work a double crochet in each one of those next 3 double crochets, just like that. And now we're ready to do a popcorn again. You can see if we go across here, there's one on that side, just to check yourself. So in that space, remember, we're going to do 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Leave a little loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert it into that first stitch worked. Catch that loop, tighten it down if you need to, bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Okay, we are in the home stretch here, and what we're going to do here is work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Double crochet, double crochet, and double crochet, chain 1, skip this space that you see here, and then we just have 3 double crochets at the end of our row. So work a double crochet in each one of those 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And row 8 is complete. So we have some really interesting texture now happening on our shawl. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit more because our shawl is growing. So for the next part of our shawl, we have rows 9 through 14 that we will be doing the same thing for each row. So I'm going to show you the first row, and then you'll do that for rows 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, okay? So you'll just repeat that. If you need to back up the video, of course, at any time and re-watch it, if you need to watch it a few times as you do your rows. But for rows 9 through 14, you'll do the same thing. So let me show you how to do that. So for rows 9 through 14, what you're going to do is chain 2, turn your work, and we're going to get a little bit more yarn here. These are very easy rows, okay? They're very similar to what we've been doing. So what we're going to do is work first a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So double crochet, and double crochet, just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work a double crochet, skip this space here, and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, okay? Then we're going to chain 1, and you can see sort of the back of this popcorn stitch that we did. We're going to chain 1 and skip over that popcorn stitch, and then work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, okay? So 1, 2, 3. Now, just as a side note, the next time you repeat this stitch, there won't be a popcorn there. There will be a space there, so you'll just skip over that. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1, skip that next space, or popcorn, whatever you come to. In this case, it's a space. And we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and then you're going to skip over whether it's a popcorn or a space. In this case, it's a popcorn, so we'll skip over that, and we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. If you notice, I'm kind of using my thumb to like isolate what we need to work on. It helps me see it a little bit better. It might work for you too. So work a double crochet in, skip that popcorn, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches once again. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1, and you're going to skip over either a space or popcorn, whatever's there. In this case, it's a space, so skip over that and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Whoops, I dropped my stitch. Let's do that again. 3, just like that. And then, once again, we're going to chain 1, skip the next either popcorn or space, whatever it is. This one happens to be a popcorn, but if it's a space, skip that. And we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So skip over that, and you can kind of like isolate it a little bit. So work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, chain 1, and then we're going to skip over whether it's a popcorn or a space. Just skip over that. In this case, it's a popcorn. So we're going to skip over that, and then just isolate those 3 double crochets because you're going to work a double crochet in each one of those. So double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Then you're going to chain 1, and then we have a space here, and then you're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now we're at that chain 2 space, our top point of our triangle. So we're going to chain 1, and then in that chain 2 space, work 3 double crochet, same way we've been doing the points previously. So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then in that same space work 3 more double crochets to finish up your top point. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to continue down the side here and do it the same way. So chain 1 once again, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, and then there's our next grouping. So we're going to chain 1 and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1. Now skip over, if it's a space or a popcorn, whatever it might be, in this case it's a popcorn, skip over that, and then we're going to go into the next 3 double crochets. You might need to, I find it's helpful, like I mentioned before, to sort of separate that group out, because that popcorn kind of squishes up against that stitch. So it's helpful to kind of get your finger in there and look at those 3 stitches all by themselves, okay? So we did a chain 1, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to chain 1 and skip over the space or the popcorn, whatever it is. In this case it's a space. Skip over that and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1, skip over the next section, whether it's a popcorn or a space. In this case it's a popcorn, and then get your next 3 stitches kind of isolated and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, let's redo that, I dropped it. Let's go back here. We skipped over our popcorn. There we go. Okay, so in each of these next 3 stitches, 1, I'm going to go slower this time, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip over that space or popcorn, whatever it is, this one happens to be a space, and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, my yarn ball is rolling all over, and then we're going to skip over the next, whether it's a popcorn or a space. In this case it's a popcorn, and we're going to work a double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Once again, kind of use your finger to help you isolate those stitches so you can see them really well. We did a chain 1, so we're going to skip over that popcorn. In subsequent rows it may be a space, like I mentioned before, and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip over that next space or popcorn, whatever it is. This one is a space this time, and then you have 3 more stitches at the end of the row. There's 3 groupings, or the grouping of 3 double crochets. So work a double crochet in each of those next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and make sure you catch both of those loops, and 3. Okay, so this is how you do rows 9 through 14. So that's how you finish up the row, and then you're just going to repeat what I just did for rows 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that section. If you need to back up and watch this row that I just did again to help you keep going, just make sure you do rows 9 through 14. Now, just as a helpful hint, as I work through the pattern, as I work through each row, I kind of like underline little things, make little notes, draw a line through it as I finish it. For this one, I sort of wrote, this is just as a side, it may help you, you may want to do it a different way. Sometimes I use post-it notes. But for rows 9 through 14, as you can see in the pattern, again, this pattern is found on Annie's in the kit. But for rows 9 through 14, when you're working through the rows, you might want a little scrap piece of paper and just write out 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And as you kind of tick through each row, let me grab my pen here. As you tick through each row, so I just did 9, I'm just going to draw a line through it so I know. And then when I do row 10, I'm just going to throw a line in there, okay? So that might just help you. You might want to do it a different way if you prefer, but we're going to work through 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and work through these rows, and when we rejoin, we'll move on to the next part. For row 15, this time we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. Then what we're going to do in that first double crochet of the row right here, we're going to work a treble crochet. So work a treble crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to chain 1. Then we're going to skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1. Then we're going to skip this next space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1. Skip the next space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. I'm just going to zoom in a tiny bit so you can see better. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. We're always skipping something, so if you notice, sometimes they say skip a space, sometimes they say skip a stitch. We're always skipping something, so whatever is just coming next in the sequence, you'll just skip that. So sometimes it'll be a space and sometimes it'll be a stitch, okay? So chain 1, skip the next thing, which happens to be a stitch, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, we're always doing a chain 1 in between. Skip the next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. We're just doing this all the way up the side of our triangle here. So we did our chain 1, skip the next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet once again. And we're just doing this all the way to our triangle point. So as you can see, we're almost there. Chain 1, skip the next space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next space, in the stitch after that, treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet. Chain 1, skip that next space, and in that stitch that follows, treble crochet, chain 1. All right, we're almost there. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work another treble crochet, chain 1. All right, we have a little space here, so skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and in that last stitch before you get to this chain 2 space, that little point here, we're going to work a treble crochet. Okay? Now let's work our point so we can turn our work a little bit. Now in the chain 2 space, what we're going to do is work a treble crochet. Let me me get a little bit more yarn. Chain 1, then another treble crochet, all in the same space. Then we're going to chain 2, then we're going to work another treble crochet. This is all in the same space. Chain 1, and then another treble crochet, all in that chain 2 space, okay? Now we're going to continue down the side here. So we can turn our work a little bit. And what we're going to do for this side is the same thing that we did coming up the side of the other side of our triangle, okay? So what we want to do is chain 1, then work a treble crochet in that next stitch, and then we're just going to keep our sequence going, okay? So chain 1, skip the next stitch. Same concept. If it's a space that's next, you skip that. If it's a stitch that's next, you skip that, okay? So in this case, it happens to be a stitch. So skip that next stitch, and the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. So my yarn ball's kind of running all over the place here. Let me just get a little bit more here. There we go. Okay, we're going to chain 1, skip the next space because we're out of space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Skip the next space, and in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Whoops. There we go. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Skip the next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip that next space, in the stitch after that, work a treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. If this is a little monotonous and you've kind of mastered it, you can go on ahead in the video, just as a side note. Skip the next space, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1, skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. We're almost there. We're getting very close to the end. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. Skip the next space, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. Skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. All right, we are getting to the end here. Skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. Skip that next space, and in the stitch after that, treble crochet, chain 1. All right, and here we are. Skip that next stitch, and in that last stitch, work a treble crochet. and then our row is complete. So that is row 15. Kind of mimics what we did a little earlier in our shawl here. It kind of gives it a little openness. Okay, so let's move on to row 16. For row 16, what we're going to do is chain 2 and turn our work. Now I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more so you can see here. Okay, so for row 16, what we're going to do is double crochet in every stitch and chain 1 space across till we get to our triangle point, okay? So super easy. So we're going to work a double crochet into that first treble crochet that we did. Double crochet into the space. Double crochet into the stitch. So every stitch and space that we come to, okay? So double crochet, I just did one in the stitch. Now we go right into the space. Double crochet into that stitch, that treble crochet from the previous row. And double crochet into the space. Double crochet into the stitch. Double crochet into the space. All the way across, okay? So I'm going to go through it. If you want to skip ahead, feel free to do that. Double crochet into the, I just did one in the stitch, now I'm doing one in the space. Okay, so we're just going all the way across. Now as we progress in our shawl, and it gets bigger and bigger, we're just going to be repeating some of these sections. So I did want to show you how to thoroughly do each row, and then as our shawl grows, some of these rows will be repeated. And I will put timestamps on there so you can go back and watch it in, detail. Okay, so double crochet in the stitch, double crochet in the space, in the stitch, and the space, all the way across. And I just want to say as a side note how beautifully these colors are playing out. It makes it really fun when each row is kind of a different color at this point, now that it's getting a little bit bigger. And the colors change frequently enough to keep everything super interesting. Okay, I'm still working a double crochet in each stitch and space. All the way across. It's very easy to see because our last row had a lot of openness to it. So the spaces and the stitches are very easy to see because they're very spread apart. Working in at each stitch and space all the way across. And it's going to kind of, as you can see, frame in this sort of ladder look that we have here. All right, I just did one in the space. Now I'm going into the stitch. All the way down the side of our shawl. You can see we sort of have like a lighter blue going on here. Our previous row was teal. Now we have this like, almost like a steel blue or like a powdery blue. Very pretty. Okay, moving right along. We're almost at our triangle point. Just working a double crochet once again in each stitch and space all the way across. Okay, we're almost to our little point here of our triangle. So we're just gonna take it to the point here, to that chain 2 space, and then we'll work that the way we've been working. Okay, that last couple stitches here. Okay, just working up to that chain 2 space. So I just worked in the space, and then here is our last stitch. And now we're at the chain 2 space. So in the chain 2 space, we're going to work 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to work a chain 2 and then a 3 double crochet in the same space to work that corner, just like that. Okay, so here's our corner. And now what we need to do is come down the other side. So it's just going to be the same exact thing. I'm going to get you started and we can kind of just work on this part. Okay, so there is a stitch here, so you'll work a double crochet in that first stitch down this side, okay? So work a double crochet in that stitch, work a double crochet into the space, work a double crochet into the stitch, work a double crochet into the space, work a double crochet into the stitch, and so forth, all the way down. So let's go ahead and do that, and then when we rejoin, because it's very easy and similar to what we've just done, when we rejoin, we'll wrap up row 16 and move on to row 17. Okay, we're coming up to the end of row 16, and again, we're just working double crochets in each space and stitch. So here's our last stitch here at the end of the row, and that's row 16. Okay, so moving on, row 17. For row 17, we're basically going to be repeating row 7, but I'm going to show you how to do it just because row 7 was a ways back. So what we're going to do is chain 2, turn our work, and then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. So work a double crochet in the first stitch, and the next stitch, and the stitch after that. And then what we're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to skip the next stitch, and in the stitch after that we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that work 3 double crochet, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, and you can see it's sort of mimicking what we did back here. Okay, so chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that work double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch. We're just repeating this sequence all the way down again till we get to our point here. Okay, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, whoops, I split it a little bit, there we go, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now we're at the chain 2 space again. So chain 1, and then in that chain 2 space, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 double crochet, all in that chain 2 space. So 1, 2, 3. All right, now we're going to continue down the side once again. So chain 1, and then in that first stitch, those first 3 stitches rather, work a double crochet in each of those next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So we're just going to do the same thing down this side that we did coming up the other side, okay? So chain 1, skip the next stitch, in the stitch after that, work a double crochet in each of those next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. So just keep going down the side, same sequence we've been doing, all the way down. When we get towards the end here, we'll rejoin and move on to row 18. All right, coming up to the last stitch here of row 17. And that is how it looks when it's complete. Okay, so for row 18, that's one of our fun popcorn rows. So what we're going to do is chain 2 and turn. And then we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So double crochet into that first stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. Okay? Then we're going to work a popcorn in this chain 1 space. This first chain 1 space here, we're going to work one of our popcorns. So if you remember, in that space we're going to work 5 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to begin the popcorn. Okay, then we're going to pull a little loop out, and we're going to count 5 double crochets back to that first one we did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that first stitch that we did, remember we did those 3 at the beginning, then we started our popcorn. That first stitch, you're going to insert your hook into that first stitch. Then you're going to reach back and grab this loop and I like to kind of snug it down. Then bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1, and that's our popcorn, okay? Next, we're going to work 3 double crochet, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Then what we're going to do is chain 1 and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then in that next space, we're going to work a popcorn once again. So in that space, once again, work 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then kind of pull out a loop, and we're going to count back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That first stitch you worked of those 5 double crochets, reach back and grab that loop and kind of snug it down. Now bring that loop through that stitch and chain 1. Okay? So we're just going to kind of repeat this all the way to our point. Okay? So once again, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip over that next space here and then work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, then we're going to work a popcorn in the next space. So in that space, work 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Kind of pull out a loop like we did before and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert your hook in that first stitch worked of that 5 double crochet grouping. Reach back, grab your loop, snug it down if you need to, and bring that loop through that stitch and chain 1. Then work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Then chain 1, and we're going to skip over that next space and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Now we're ready for our popcorn again. So we're at our space. Work your 5 double crochets to get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull a little loop out, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So go in that first stitch of that group of 5, snug your loop down, bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Okay, so we're just repeating what we've done all the way across. Okay, so once again, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches again. 1, 2, 3, and now we're ready to do a popcorn again. So in that space, work your 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull your little loop out a little bit and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go in that first stitch you worked of that group of 5. Reach back, grab that loop, tighten it down. Now pull that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, chain 1. Skip over that next space. Work double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're ready to do a popcorn again. So in that space, do your 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull your loop out a little bit and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert it into that first stitch of that group of 5. Reach back, grab that loop, snug it up. Now bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, whoops, my yarn split a little. That's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip over that space. Now go work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're ready to do a popcorn again. So work 5 double crochet in that space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull your loop out a little bit and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to locate that first stitch. Insert your hook back in there, snug your loop down, bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Okay, we're in the home stretch here. Work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, whoops, let's go back and do that. 2, 3, chain 1, skip over that space, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and in that next space we'll work our popcorn. So 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull your little loop out and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reinsert back into that first one. Snug your loop down. Bring that loop through the stitch and chain 1. Okay, just a little bit left. Work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and work a double crochet, skip over that space, excuse me, and then work a double crochet in each of those next 3 stitches, and then we'll be at our corner space. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to work our corner. So we're at that chain 2 space. So to do that, work 3 double crochet in that space. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and in the same space, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now to do the next side, we're going to do the same exact thing that we did. I'm going to get you started, and then we're going to kind of depart and go work on it on our own, okay? Okay, so we did our 3 double crochets. Now we're at our chain 2 space once again. So chain 1, and then in that chain 2 space, work 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochet all in that same space. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to chain 1 once again, and now we're going to work down the side the way we did coming up this other side. Okay, so the same sequence. I'm going to get you started, and then we're going to kind of like work on it on our own. Okay, so we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, then chain 1. Then we're going to skip the next space and work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. We're really just trying to mirror, let me just redo that last double crochet. We're really just trying to mirror what we did on the other side. Okay, so work a double crochet in each of those next 3 stitches that we did. So I just did that, and now we're at a space again. So we're going to work our popcorn, because if you see, if you look across, we have one right there. So we're ready to do another one. So let's do this popcorn, and then we'll kind of move on and work on the rest of our side. Okay, so in that space, we're going to work 5 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in that same space. Pull a little bit of a loop out, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go in that first stitch of our group of 5 double crochets, kind of tighten that loop down. Now we're going to bring that loop through our stitch and chain 1. Okay? Then we're just going to keep going. So work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip the next space, work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and now we're ready to work a popcorn again. So we're just going to keep working down the side the same way we did up here in that same order, and when we get towards the end of this row, we'll rejoin and keep moving. All right, we're coming up to the end of row 18. So in that last chain 1 space that you see here, we're just going to work 1 more popcorn. So once again, 5 double crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull your loop out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put it in that first stitch of that group of 5. Bring that loop through that stitch and chain 1. And then to finish off the row, we just have 3 more double crochets at the end here. We're just going to work a double crochet in each stitch. Okay, so 1, next stitch, work that second double crochet, next stitch, work that third double crochet. Okay, so row 18 is complete. So you can see, if we zoom out here, we have some lovely texture with our popcorn. It almost looks like little gems. Okay, and so if you're getting a little bit of, see how this is a little bit curly at the top? That's okay. The pattern, the written pattern that I have here that we've been going by, it does recommend that you block it. Okay, so if you're getting a little bit of that, now I just kind of smoothed it out and it's looking flat now, but it does recommend that you block it to kind of open up all these stitches. Okay, so now we are at a kind of a turning point of our pattern. Our pattern now, I've shown you all of the instructional parts of all the rows. For the whole rest of the shawl, all these rows will just be repeated. So the easiest thing I thought to do is to, at the bottom of the informational section of our video, I'm going to do timestamps. So to keep going, I'm going to tell you, so for example, the next part of our pattern is rows 19 through 24. You repeat rows 9 through 14. And if that's kind of complicated sounding, at the bottom of this video, every single row has a timestamp. So for if you're not familiar with the concept of a timestamp, it's a link that you can click on and it'll take you to the exact part of the video that we will be repeating. So for rows 19 through 24, I'll put the timestamp of the section that you'll be repeating, which was this part here. So we're going to be repeating that. And I'm going to tell you as I complete each row, I'll come back and I'll say, okay, for this row, you repeat this. But anyway, the rest of our pattern will just be repeating what we've already done. So the instruction is there and we'll reference it with a timestamp at the bottom of the video. So this pattern actually has a total. We are now going to be starting on row 19. This pattern has a total of 48 rows, the rest of which just repeats. So we've already kind of seen what to do. So I'm just going to, as we start each row, I'll just kind of like start it and tell you what we will be repeating at this point. Okay. So we know how to do the whole shawl. We're just going to be repeating from this point forward. Okay. So moving right along for the next row, rows 19 through 24. And again, this information is at the bottom and it's timestamped, so you can go right back to the spot that you need. We're going to just be repeating rows 9 through 14 that we did earlier in the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my rows 9 through 14, and then when we rejoin, we'll move on to the next part of our repeat. Okay, so for rows 19, 20, 21, 22, and 24, repeat rows 9 through 14, and the timestamp can be found down below. Okay, just coming up to the end of row 24. And now we're ready to work on row 25. So here was rows 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So this section here we just repeated. Now for row 25, we're going to repeat row 15. And again, the timestamps will be down below if you need to see that row again. So we're just going to be repeating row 15 as we work on row 25 next. Just coming up to the end of row 25. And like I said before, this is all just repeats of what we've already been doing. Okay, so row 25 is complete. We just repeated row 15, which was back here. Okay, so moving on to row 26, for row 26, we're going to repeat row 16. So we already did row 16 ways back, and again, the timestamp for that, if you want to go right to it and see it again, can be found below. So for row 26, we're just going to repeat row 16 for that row, okay? Just coming up to the end of row 26, working that last stitch in there. And now we're ready for row 27. So for row 27, we're going to be repeating row 7 for that. And again, you can go right to that if you need to see it again and click on that timestamp below. So for row 27, just simply repeat row 7. Just working that last stitch of row 27. And again, for row 27, we repeated row 7 for that. Now let's move on to row 28. For row 28, what we're going to do is repeat row 18. So again, for that, we've done that a ways back, and if you need to hop over to it, the link to the little timestamp can be found down below as well. So for row 28, just repeat row 18. Just coming up to the end of row 28. And now we're ready to move on to the next part. So for the next part, we're going to do rows 29 through 34. And for those, we'll repeat rows 9 through 14 again. We've done this a couple other times. So again, the timestamps below, you can just click on over and look at that. That was where we did this multiple row repeat. So for rows 29 through 34, so 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34, we'll repeat rows 9 through 14, okay? Just working the last stitch of this last section that we worked. So we did rows 29 through 34, so you can see 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34. And again, just to refresh, that was repeating rows 9 through 14 that we did earlier in the shawl. So for row 35, which is next, we're going to be repeating row 15. Again, the timestamp is below. You can rewatch it. So we're going to begin row 35, and we'll be repeating row 15 for that. Coming up to the end of row 35. And now we're ready to move on to row 36. So for row 36, we're just going to be repeating row 16 for that. Coming up to the end of row 36, and now we're ready for row 37. For row 37, for this one, you're just going to be repeating row 7, okay? So row 7 we did a ways back, and you can find the timestamp for that below as well. So for row 37, just repeat row 7. Just working that last stitch of row 37, and now we're on to row 38. So for row 38, all you have to do is repeat row 18. So again, you can look it up below if you need to see that again, but just repeat row 18 when you do row 38. Just coming up to the end of row 38, and again, we repeated row 18 for that. So the next part is going to be rows 39 through 44. So for those rows, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44, we're going to be repeating rows 9 through 14. We've done this a couple times before, and again, you can check below if you want to rewatch it. For that timestamp, you can click on and go right to it. So for rows 39 to 44, we're going to be repeating rows 9 through 14. Just coming up to our last repeat that we just did. And so we are now complete with rows 39 through 44. So 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, and 44. So we have that section done. And again, we were just repeating rows 9 through 14, which we've done at other parts of our shawl as well. The next row we're going to do is row 45. We are getting there. We have just 4 rows left. So again, we're just repeating. We've been repeating for a while. All the stuff can be found at the bottom to reference back. So for row 45, we're going to be repeating row 15. Okay, so again, row 15, just repeat row 15 when you do row 45. Row 45 is complete, and now we're going to move on to row 46. For row 46, you're just going to repeat row 16. Just coming up to the end of row 46, where we repeated row 16. Now we're going to start on row 47, where we will repeat row 7. So just repeat row 7 for row 47. Just coming up to the end of row 47, working that last stitch. And now we have arrived at the last row, row 48. For row 48, we're just going to be repeating row 18. So repeat row 18 for row 48, and this will be the last row we will do. Just working that last stitch of the last row, and we are finished. So row 48 is complete. Again, we repeated row 18. So our shawl looks great. We just have a few more things to do before we finish it up. So what we're going to do is, I just had a tiny bit of yarn. I'm going to cut it just to make the tail a little bit more manageable. So wrap the yarn around the hook, bring it through the loop, and fasten off. And then what you'll want to do is grab a tapestry needle. And any ends that you have, anywhere you joined a new ball of yarn throughout your shawl, you'll want to weave those ends in. Now this was a kind of like a tonal jewel tone yarn. So my tail is blue. I'm going to try and keep it in this blue section so that it'll be as camouflaged as possible. So I'm just going to go in one direction with my tail here. And then bring it through and come back in the other direction with my tail. I'm also going to, and then just come back in that direction and then cut with your yarn. I'm also going to weave in any tails that remain. So any other tails that are left, I'm going to take care of those now. So our shawl is finished. The colors and the stitches look so beautiful. And when you're finished, you can use the enclosed card from the kit to send your donation if you choose to donate it. There is an address of where to send it, and you can put a little message on there, and it's really nice that it comes with that. I also wanted to mention, if you go to the link below for the Flux blog, you can see all the links on where to get the kits, the pattern itself, and other information about the kit itself, and you can read about the contents of the kit and everything there too. So hop on over to the blog as well, and you can get more information about the kit itself and where to get it. So we've gone through the whole Notes in the Garden shawl from the Annie's Caring Crochet Kit Club. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun, and special thanks to Annie's for sharing this kit with me so that I could show it to all of you as well. So that is how you crochet the Notes in the Garden shawl. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Flux video updates. Thanks again!